love it.
So just about there. So there we go. That's the Machine Pun Kelly theme song right there. Looks like we had a viewer and then they left, but that's okay.
That's
Maybe
all right.
You like that's the first time you've heard the song, right? Nahan?
It is, and I absolutely love it. It's a banger.
It took a few efforts with my with the AI to find that, but I do not have the musical talent.
Sometimes
there's two types of people that get on American Idol, and I can get on American Idol.
Those AI generated songs, I used to follow when I used Facebook. I used to follow a guy who would do like the drums part of a song that he would get AI to generate, and it was hysterical. So like, it makes sense that it's not always going to be a good result coming out of that.
No. But, for those of us with no talent and no money, then,
Hey, I've got a guitar. Well, I can, come up with something real quick.
So, we're just trying to figure out something to do for our intro while I get the link posted. So today we are going to talk about kind of our plan for the show, and it's more than a show. It's a YouTube channel, a podcast, and a Substack, kind of all woven together with a common theme of how we can absorb media
right
in a new way. I keep thinking of Joe Rogan. How many people were like talking about Kamala Harris should be on the Joe Rogan show? And
everybody.
And it's like there are those of us like, me and you, Nahan, and probably a lot of Blue Sky users who are actively engaged with the news. But there are, I'd say maybe 80% of the population is passively absorbs the news. They just hear things here and there. They're not really all that.
They're not political.
They're not actively involved. They're not political. And I don't even say that as a fault. They're just bored. They're tired. They're working jobs. They're raising kids, and they get home. They're tired. They don't want to sit there and, I think, like Lawrence O'Donnell and Rachel Maddow are great, but you can't passively absorb those shows. Like they actually require thinking to process them. And some people are just like, like you ever notice what kind of shows are popular in primetime?
Well, I don't watch primetime, but I mean, I do have CNN on Max.
But I mean on network primetime TV.
Yeah, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper,
No, not on broadcast like NBC, CBS.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
The scripted shows I'm talking about. They're scripted shows, right?
They're scripted.
Like game shows and stuff like that. But the scripted shows, the dumbest shows on TV,
Yeah,
like the Chicago drama series, the Chicago Law, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and you've got like really bad sitcoms.
Yeah.
And the reason those things are popular is because people don't want to actively be engaged, right? They want to just sit back and be entertained. And that's why Fox News is popular.
Yeah, it's entertainment. It's not news. They even said it themselves.
And it's like, and anger is its own kind of entertainment, you know? And they sell anger. That's what they market in. That's what they traffic in. And so, you know, and that's why, you know, like people, they get their news from people like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, and Joe Rogan has on a guest that's an anti-vaxxer, and, you know, he helped invent the vaccine as though he actually helped invent the vaccine.
Right.
And
I mean, he's here's why he's a great podcaster, is because he will bring anybody on, he'll talk to anybody, but he won't push back on anything because one, he's a fucking idiot. At the end of the day, he really doesn't know a lot of things. He doesn't, like, even when he does his episodes and he talks to people, he doesn't absorb a lot of that information anyways, unless it's his narrative inside of his head, the big, you know, empty head. You know, but you know, the fact that he's lauded as this great interviewer is garbage, because he's not
a great interviewer. He's a great conversationalist.
Right. But he's also great at spreading falsehoods, and he gives people a platform where it's dangerous. It you know, goes into dangerous territory.
The reason it works is because people are passively listening.
Yeah.
They're driving to work and they're listening to him, and they're paying attention to the traffic, right?
Yeah. Right.
And they're thinking about what they're going to do during the workday, and there's this kind of background noise that gets into them.
Right.
And so they're like listening while they're, you know, some guy is cutting them off in traffic, or they're trying to, you know, make a lane change, and this guy is rambling on about how he helped invent the vaccine when she didn't actually help invent the vaccine. He framed the idea 40 years ago from which the vaccine, from which premise the vaccine eventually became something. He didn't, it's not like he ever actually worked on that vaccine, but he's like, I helped invent it, so I'm an expert on it. And it's like, no, you have no idea what happened with this fact. Anyway, I digress. So the people that are listening to that and they're absorbing that, and they're just, you know, it's just, that's their news. That's what they get for news.
Right.
And you know, like those of us who are actively engaged look at that and we're like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Right. But most of us are not actively engaged. And so we, as, you know, like, we need to find a way to engage, to reach those who are just passively engaged. Like, instead of just criticizing them, we need to go, okay, that's where they're at. That's where we need to go to reach them. Right. And so this is what we're trying to do with this show and with everything else.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if anybody's engaging in anything, whether it's more social media and podcasts like this, or on YouTube or TikTok or what have you, social media in general, what 63% of the total population of the world is active on social media. So if we're going to reach anybody, and especially because it's not just the right that's like legacy media is bad, you know, whatever quote, whatever Elon said about it. And it's like X is the future for media. It's not just the right that thinks that, it's the left too. It's progressives that are upset with the way that the media has been handling everything as well. So we have to come and meet them where they are, to be able to get them to, you know, give them insight on what's happening, where they're going to be able to listen. And
let
you know,
let me give you a perfect example of that. Is the economy over the last 4 years, right? Where even like MSNBC would constantly, like almost daily, run stories about inflation and how it was bad for the Democrats and how it was bad for Biden. And so there was like a subliminal message attached to that, that the inflation was Biden's fault, that somehow he was the reason for the inflation. And that it being bad for the Democrats made it mean it was good for the Republicans. So somehow the Republicans got credit for they're going to solve inflation without ever having to say why or how or what was, like, without ever having to even consider what the causes of inflation were.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
never really said it's the administration's fault. They didn't ever look. They didn't go any deeper than that and to
yeah,
look at what the real issues were.
and
Exactly.
so it's like it's looking at everything in terms of the horse race, right? Rather than looking at it in terms of policy. It never looked at what really why is there inflation? That used to be what the news did.
Mm.
The news used to look at things and not interpret the news, but tell the news.
Right. Exactly.
Now it's everything is interpreted through this horse race mentality, and that might there's a lot of reasons for that. I think not, some of it is the polarization actually affects it. Like people aren't curious. They're not like going, oh, why is inflation? They
Right.
look at things in terms, they actively search for things that reinforce their own perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's all emotional too. I mean, hell, we
Yeah.
don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore in terms of,
But that's all nostalgic.
yeah.
Like,
Right. But
like
he
that
reported
people don't
too.
really want a Walter Cronkite.
They don't.
No, like, I worked in NBA media for, like 10 years.
Right.
And everybody would complain about, clickbait.
Mm.
And you know why there's clickbait?
Why?
Because that's the only thing that works.
Yeah, it
Like-
puts on emotions, right? That's
Like,
why.
like if you're not doing clickbait, you're not getting clicks. And if you're not getting clicks, you're not getting money. And if you're not getting money, you're going out of business. Like,
Exactly.
and then people, like they use pop-up blockers and they won't pay for subscriptions. And so it's like they want content creators to create content for free. And it's got to be something that is pure and above board, and at the same time not something that they're going to pay for or watch an ad for or anything like that. So
Right.
there are conditions. So the media is responding to the market,
Right.
and that's why you don't have Walter Cronkite. People are like to say they want Walter Cronkite, but they don't actually. Walter Cronkite would be a dud now. People would just be like, he's so boring.
Change the channel. Yeah, exactly. But I think that a lot of the media out there that does provide factual information where people can learn something and maybe look more deeply into it on their own and learn something from that is blocked by paywalls. I mean, New York Times, Washington Post, we all got a lot to say about those particular outlets, but they do provide a lot of, good information in regards to, providing news, but you have to pay to get it. And so the free stuff is the clickbait, that's where people are getting their news because it's free and it's easily attainable.
We have a guest star.
Hi, Kitty. Yeah, my dogs will probably show up at some point. So Jeremy says it's interesting how inflation was rarely explained beyond talking points because average media consumers don't understand the concept on inflation equals eggs expensive. If I have to hear about the price of eggs one more time, it's ridiculous.
Here's the thing about the eggs. Half the egg-laying population of hens died because of an avian flu.
Right, exactly.
There's no one ever said, how is Donald Trump going to prevent that from happening? I'm sorry, Care Bear, you need to get down.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, I'm even concerned about how he's going to deal with it because now it's transmissible to humans now.
I'm not without even going into all that. It is amazing to me that so they blamed Joe Biden for something that nobody could have stopped, right? And then there was like the baby formula crisis, right? Where it was like Joe Biden, one factory that produced like 80% of the baby formula had some contaminants in it, and so they had to shut down the whole factory, right? And so like that's why there wasn't baby formula, and that's why the price went up, and somehow that's Joe Biden's fault.
Right.
They don't talk about why things happen. They just say things happen, and then they categorize it as into which party is this good for and which party is this bad for.
Right.
They don't talk. They don't just deliver the news, and so I feel like we need, like Jeremy said, we need more what is like discussion of the actual issues.
Right.
Like we need to actually say what is the issue here? What like let's talk about the issue free of policy, free of responsibility, Republican versus Democrat. And then as you understand the issue and you look at the different platforms from the different parties, you can figure out on your own which one is best for that issue. Right. We don't need to tell people how to vote. I think they get tired of that. And I think, little buddy, they get tired of that. They feel condescended to, they feel talked down to, they think that we think we're better than them. And I don't think I'm better than them. I do think I'm more informed than them because
you put effort into it.
I am more informed than them. It's if you don't know why the price of eggs are expensive, and I do know why the price of eggs are more expensive, then I, in fact, know something you do not know. And that's not
actively sharing this information. So it's up to these other people to decide whether or not they want to, absorb that information or not. And we're trying to provide a platform to do that. I would never tell anybody to put blinders on for anything particularly. However, I think it is important if you're trying to look at the details to put blinders on in regards to the politics and the sides of different parties, right? Don't look at it as Democratic or Republican. Look at what the facts are and then be able to come to your own conclusion based on the information you have, separate from the talking points and the noise from everybody else. What's really important is just to get that information and then determine what a solution is with that. And then if you see that one party has a policy that could fix that problem, then that's where you bring politics into it. But when you're trying to find a solution to something, it shouldn't be about politics at all. It should just be about gathering information.
If you take your car to the mechanic, you just want your car fixed.
Right.
You don't care who they voted for. Right. Yeah. It's not like you have Republican and Democratic mechanics. You have mechanics that fix cars.
Right.
And so what I want to do with this show is we actually I think one of the formative things is to have interviews with experts free of policy.
Right.
Like not make it about this is what the Democrats say, this is what the Republicans say, because I think so much of what we get nowadays is you have pundits come on and they've had their staffs research this for like 2 hours or whatever, and they come up with this 10-minute segment that and they might have an expert on that has like 2 minutes to talk and answer questions that are framed by them with a specific direction involved. And so there's not like a really open discussion about climate change or abortion or immigration or asylum, which are always conflated as being the same thing, and they are not the same thing. So like we're going to have on asylum lawyers to talk about there are Nahan, so many just blatant misunderstandings of asylum.
Right.
Like the number of people that think you can just come here and just say, I'm looking for a better life, and then get a free credit card and a free hotel room and never have to work again in your day of life and get free health care. Like that's what they think asylum means. And it's so far removed from reality, right? So I want to have asylum lawyers to come on and talk about the actual process of asylum. What do you actually have to do to get asylum?
Right.
And
what's the process look like? Because nobody knows. They just think it's hey, we get in, we say something, and they give us all these things, and we're left alone, and no big deal. Yeah, exactly.
Then after that, so we'll have the experts on, like the asylum lawyers, an immigration lawyer.
We're not going to do them like they do on Fox News or even CNN, where they have them on, they get maybe like a minute or two to talk, and then the rest of the time is the guests and the host talking about the issue. That's the entire episode. We want entire episodes dedicated to, like, we're not here really to talk. Maybe we're going to have questions to ask, but we're here to listen to these experts.
Yes, and as much as possible, we're letting them set the venue.
Mm.
Because here's what I've learned in life is if you're talking to an expert about something, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so if everything they say is a response to a guiding question from you, your chances to learn, if you're just trying to get them to say what you want them to say, your chances to learn something from them are very little. And I'm not just doing this so that the viewers and the listeners on the podcast can learn something. I want to learn things too.
Same.
I want to have my mind, my thinking shaped by actual knowledge.
Yeah, I'm an avid lifetime learner, and so I think everybody should be. There's not a time in life where you're going to know everything. There's always an opportunity to learn something and get perspectives that you would never have if you didn't, listen and learn from other people.
Which along those lines, I always sometimes they'll say, like Kamala Harris flip-flopped on immigration or whatever. And it's like, some people would just call that learning.
Yeah. Why are we demonizing people for changing their minds or updating and upgrading their mindset or their opinions on things? That should be applauded and not lauded, right? We should be applauding that. We should be changing our opinions about things when we learn different perspectives. That's what growing is, right? We're not going to continue down the same path because we are, fighting against changing our minds because we're stubborn. That's ridiculous. I can't believe that people are upset that she changed her mind about that. That's important that she's able to do that.
So that'll be the first part of what we're trying to do. Boy, Care Bear. So the first part of what we're trying to do is have the experts on so that we can have real people that really know what they're talking about and give them the freedom to talk about the thing.
Right.
The second thing we want to do is there are real people that are affected by these policies. And so if you didn't catch last night or yesterday's show, I encourage you to listen to it. We had 3 women come on.
It was touching.
They were just courageous women that told their stories about why they why they received abortions. Last week we had an abortion provider come on, or was it this week? It was this week. It was Monday.
Yeah, we
had an abortion provider come on and explain, how she became somebody that provides abortions. And one thing I did not realize is OBGYNs are the ones who perform abortions, but even in a place where they perform abortions, it's a very small percentage of their work.
Right.
And, so that was new information for me.
Yeah.
And she said she spends twice as much time on fertilization as she does on abortion. And, the abortion doctors, as they're called, which they're actually just OBGYN doctors who perform abortions, they are demonized as being anti-child.
Right.
But
even though she spends 2 times the amount of time dealing with fertilization. Make sense.
Something else she said that I thought really was a paradigm shift for me. She said, I don't see good abortions or bad abortions. I just see abortions.
Right.
And and then we had these 3 women on that talked about why they had abortions. And there was a common theme in them that I had never considered before, and even is counter to what you'll hear a lot of people say, what about the father?
Right.
And with all 3 of them, and this was not planned. With all 3 of them, the father was actually a big part of the reason they received abortions.
No problem. Yeah, exactly.
2 of them, one of them had the father was disengaged and was saying, she called him and she was in tears about, to tell him she was pregnant. And he's like, oh, why are you so emotional about it?
Oh my goodness.
And she's just like,
that's such an it's not an uncommon thing. It happens all the time. And that's the thing that people don't understand. All right, we talk about the facts. They want, who people are pro-life and whatnot, they tend to forget that there are those real experiences like that, right? Like that you wouldn't even typically think of if you hadn't heard somebody tell you the story, or if you hadn't experienced it yourself, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's why I think it's super important that we're having those types of conversations,
Right.
those real everyday people that have experienced that.
And then another woman, she had she actually was married, and when she was pregnant, she was at first excited, happy about it, but then found out her husband was cheating on her and filed for divorce after she declared she was pregnant, or after she told him she was pregnant. And she's like, I don't want this guy in my life for the rest of my life. I don't want to raise a child with this person. Yeah. And that was a part of, she like, because he abandoned her while she was pregnant with his child, right? Now she's supposed to think about his child. No, I don't think so. Like, and then the third person was her husband. It sounded like probably he was in Vietnam. And he had some serious PTSD issues, and he wasn't dealing with them. And from the way she was speaking about him, you could tell that even still, she has love for him.
Yeah.
But there was an environment, she eventually had to divorce him. There was an environment that was not conducive to raising a child with.
Right.
And she couldn't trust him to be a part of the child's life, and she couldn't have the baby without him being a part of the child's life, or having him in her life for the rest of her life. So these are all like very real things that women go through that are not part of the current abortion conversation. Like,
it's not clickbait.
The father, even like, what if she doesn't want to have a relationship with the father for the rest of her life? What if she doesn't want to have the rest of her life determined by this pregnancy? And, if she does, if she's okay with that, then go ahead and have the baby. Right. But if she doesn't, her life is much more governed by the outcome than his.
Right. Why is that such a difficult concept to grasp? I don't understand that. Like, you want somebody to be a responsible parent, when they have children. Isn't it also like being the responsible adult individual as, maybe a person that can carry children, to decide this would not be good for this child? I don't understand why that's such a difficult concept to wrap your head around. It's really not. It's not difficult for me. I don't get that.
And like Wireless Mike says, aside from all of that, not everybody should be a parent.
Preach.
Some people have no business raising another human being.
That's correct.
And in addition to that, some people, like all three women, ended up raising children later.
Yeah.
They had children with.
Oh my gosh, what a wild concept.
Loved their children. One of them, without even realizing it, was like, she had her camera, and right behind her was a big photo montage of her children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that, it's like the conservatives try to present this caricature of women that get abortions as women that don't want children. Like J.D. Vance kept calling them childless cat ladies and all that kind of stuff, right?
Good Lord, yes. Yeah, God forbid.
But these women had children. They loved their children. They raised their children. These are children that would not exist if they had not gotten abortions.
Right.
So,
well, that's also what's terrifying, though, about the policies that, where a lot of states are having issues with treating women that are having an unsuccessful pregnancy, right? Those women wanted to have those kids, but they weren't able to do so. But then they weren't even able to get the medical care that they need. And that is because there are so many people that are uneducated about this issue, politicians that don't even understand the concepts of that. And that's why those laws are put in place. And so I think that exposing the reality of that, of why people are getting abortions, hopefully will open and shed some light on the issues that some people maybe don't understand. Because like you said, you learned for the first time a lot of the things that you learned about abortion on these conversations that you had with those women yesterday, and with the OBGYN on the other episode. So I think it's a good cause and a good way to expose people to those ideas and those experiences.
So I think, yeah. And so we're approaching it from two sides. One, the expert to talk about the issue and understand the issue. But number two is the right tries to create these caricatures of us, of the liberals, right? We are people that bring our kids to drag shows in grade school libraries where they're, butts are being shaken and all of, like, you know, the memes.
Yeah, of course. Or like, kids going to school, they get a shot from the nurse at the school nurse, then they come home, they're a girl now. That's like,
like that kind. So
it's extremist ideals, right? They're trying
they create this image of us that does not exist. And you could sit there and you could argue all day that, I don't take children to drag shows. But and that makes they conflate being drag with being trans, which is
not the same.
Not at all the same thing. But setting that aside, actually talking to trans people addresses the caricature more than anything else.
Right.
Because you see, these are real people.
Yeah.
That have real issues, that go through real life. And, so if you talk to the expert on transgender healthcare and get one side of that, and then you flesh that out with real people that have actually gone through transgender healthcare of various levels and according to their own choices, it makes a difference. Like, that's how you break down this caricature and present real people. And then you can hopefully, you're not going to get every MAGA to change their mind.
Yeah.
But especially like the hardcore Fox watcher, praise to Donald Trump before they go to bed.
Yeah, anybody who has a MAGA hat,
if we could just get 2 or 3% to change their mind, we can change the results of the election. You know what I'm saying?
If you have a T-shirt with Trump's face on it or a MAGA hat, I do not think that there's any way you're going to change those people's mind. They have to have like a come to Jesus moment for them to change their minds. But we're not trying to reach those people because they're unreachable. But there are a lot of people who still are. They're not like ultra MAGA, and they're still, they still have an open ear and are capable of listening and hearing, new information and processing that, I think, up there.
And that's why I like, at the beginning, I was trying to frame it that there are people that just absorb news passively. It's they learn through osmosis, and they have, like their podcast on, and they're just kind of getting some of it. And when all of the podcasts and all of the passive information that they absorb is from the right wing, that's what's going to shape their mind, and that's what's going to shape their vote. I'm not talking about the hardcore MAGAs, they are. Don't waste your energy on them. They're not worth it.
Yeah.
But there are, like, I'd say probably at least half of the people who voted for Trump were just ignorant. And I don't mean that ignorant in a way. I mean ignorant, and they actually lack knowledge.
Yeah, right. I mean, hell, there were people Googling, if Biden dropped out of the race after the election. These people, those are the people that voted for Trump that I would say are ignorant, or the ones that voted or Googled afterwards, can I change my vote after the election? Like those are
the ones who I'm talking about are the ones that Googled how do tariffs work after the election.
Yes, exactly.
Like, and a lot of that's also like a lot of why I feel like the media is to blame.
Yes, they're responsible for combating those false narratives, and they're not taking on that role or that responsibility. That's the problem there. If we have to talk about issues with legacy media, it is that they are not taking responsibility for allowing to give people a platform to spread falsehoods, or they're just not actually actively attempting to inform the public. They're just there again. It's click shit. It's entertainment, and that's the problem with that. And we want to get out. We want to get away from that as much as we can, because it's not conducive to an informed society, right?
And we need to reach those people in a way where we're not talking at them, we're talking to them.
Yeah.
We're not telling them they're wrong. We're just presenting people with real experiences that can change their perception. You know, I there was a time when I was like, I used to say it's what's on the outside that counts.
Right.
You know, when people would talk, you know, and then one time I went to a friend's, I meant to visit a friend, and they had they ran a restaurant, and they bought a house and they converted it into a restaurant. It was really good. And the food was just some of the most amazing food I've ever made. And I met the cook, and the cook was a trans woman. And that was the first time I ever really talked to a trans woman.
Right.
And as I talked to her, I found out she's just a person. And this, she's not doing an act. This isn't a thing. She's not trying to get attention.
Right.
She's just cooking food.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
Right.
You know, and it, so then I like, that changed my opinion of trans people by, and then, you know, then later on, you know, I met more trans people. This is going to sound a little convoluted. My wife's first cousin's son, or my wife's first cousin's wife's son is transgender.
Right.
So, but you know, she's really close with her cousins, and so, you know, like, and he got married to her, and her father, his father is a different father, but he's
yeah.
So anyway, they're basically part of my extended family.
Sure.
And his 18th birthday present was trans surgery.
Oh wow.
It was the first day he could legally get it. And his mom and dad had to struggle a little bit with the concept of their daughter was not their daughter. Their daughter was their son. It was something they had to adapt to. But then they adapted to it and they supported him. And he is happier now than he has been.
Good.
They always want to bring it up that, you know, transgender people always have regrets afterwards. And I don't think that's true. No. But anyway, so we're going to have one of our guests, well, two of our guests are going to be Jen and Grayson. They're going to come on together.
Oh, awesome.
And tell their story together.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important people realize these are real people with real stories. And then my brother's daughter is actually my brother's son. You know, it took me a while to get used to calling him my nephew instead of her my niece.
Right.
And, you know, there was a few stumbles, but I've gotten used to it now. And, you know, and so like just knowing trans people makes a difference, and knowing parents of trans people makes a difference. Yeah. In Texas right now, just the care that my brother is giving his son, who's a senior in high school, just the care that he is getting for him would be illegal. Right. And he's really worried right now about his son and what's in the future for him because of the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
These are real things. These are real people. And we want to have these conversations to take not the stigma out of it, even though like hopefully that happens too, but the caricature.
Yeah.
Just the way they make, you know, like the caricature drawings, you go to this and they, you know, they accentuate all your
highlight your features.
And that's what the right wing does to the left with everything. You know, women are just getting abortions for birth control, and, you know, transgender people are just mentally they're just mentally ill,
Mental
or and you can't
Nancy Mace just said that. Like, I don't want your mental disorder to, like, control my life or whatnot.
Like how is somebody pissing in the stall next to you controlling your life, Nancy?
It doesn't make any sense.
She is like literally trying to control somebody else's life, and if you say anything against her, then you're trying to control her life by not allowing her to control somebody else's life.
She's doing is telling a woman to use the men's restroom. That's what she's doing. Yeah. She's telling a woman to use the men's restroom, period. So, that's terrifying. But yeah, no, I agree though. The way that the right presents us, the caricature, the parody, the boogeyman, essentially, like it's all scary, right? But if we're able to expose that and strip away that fear-based narrative, I think that we're going to reach some people, right? Because we're not going to be, the fear tactic is gone at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what that's people's opinion.
And that's exactly where I like what you said there. And actually it just kind of hit me that Joe Rogan, fear factor, fear. Yeah. But that there's that TV commercial, and I've mentioned this to you before, Nahan, where they're running from the mad slasher guy, and the one guy says, "Why don't we go get in the running car?" I think is it a guy? Anyway, one guy says, "Go get in the running car," and then the girl says, "No, let's go hide behind those chainsaws."
Right.
And
that's a Geico commercial, right? It's yeah, that is exactly what that is. Yes, I remember. That's from like 2014. Yeah.
So
there's no, they're basing their decisions on fear and being in a heightened sense of fear. So their logic is out the window.
Yes, exactly.
And everything is based on, the fear. Yeah, exactly.
And so like when people are afraid, they don't think rationally. That's like,
right.
There was one guest on that said it was like you're 7 times as likely to make a stupid decision when you're afraid.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Tamirius said that on our show on Monday. She mentioned that. Yeah.
So you want to the first thing you need to do is take away their fear. Like the fear that the right tries to put in is that somehow, like for instance, transgenderism there's 2 fears they try to insinuate. One is being transgender is like the cooties.
Right. Yeah.
And you're going to catch it. Like if somebody pees sitting down in a stall and then your daughter comes in and pees sitting down on the same toilet seat, she's going to come home a boy or something. Like
we all have a gender neutral bathroom in our homes, right? We have at least one, I would hope. Everybody has a bathroom in their house.
On an airplane or what, and it's anyway, the whole so the first thing you have to do is you have to get away from, like, by introducing them to real transgender people and having real conversations, it takes the fear out of it. You're like, okay, and the other thing that they try to do is make it all about transgender women playing men's or women's sports. Like, so like this 240
that happening.
4 guy is going to play on the field hockey team, and he's going to run around and bowl over, these little 5 foot, 100-pound girls and break their arms and legs and stuff and take all their scholarships. And it's like, if you have an example of that happening, then go ahead and show me. Otherwise, just shut up.
Right.
But
well, I mean,
like
during
here's something
you saw that happening. Remember, like that Cleef was a transgender woman during the boxing match in the Olympics. Yeah. She wasn't. She's a woman.
She was an actual woman. Yeah.
Woman. She's a real woman. It's insane. Yeah.
And they still act like she's a man.
Yeah, because she has an additional X chromosome, or is it? I'd have to talk to the scientists about that again.
No. And there's something about that, and before they would always say, well, the chromosomes, and I would say, but there are actual women that have that chromosome.
Exactly.
And what are you going to say? They're a man, even though they weren't born with a penis? Because right now you're trying to say it's all about the penis. But what if they don't have a penis and they have the extra, that happens. And And so then there's also there's like all kinds of, like testosterone issues, like a
Yeah.
a cisgender woman can have more testosterone than a trans male or
Right.
than a
So
trans
much
woman.
so that they could probably, if they had to take a test on that, like to get blood work done to compete in a sport, per se, there's women that have such high levels that they would be considered male based on the results of those tests, but they are clearly a woman, right? I mean, the science is nuanced, but people try to break it down into these small bits of things and these small facts or ideas that don't really expose the entirety of that, right? And that's easy for people to digest too, and that's why a lot of people think that way.
And the thing is if you were to, the other thing I've been finding out that's interesting is not everybody realizes it when they're kids. I have we have another guest coming on. He's a trans. I can't remember what he's sort of like non-binary. We'll just say he realized he's non-binary. He's in his 50s, and he just realized it like 2 years ago. Like, and possibly because we're having conversations around it, and he's, anyway, we'll let him tell his story. I don't know all of it, how he came to that realization, but I think, whether somebody, like whether you identify as a male or a female, Nahan, it affects my life not at all.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't. Like, but somehow people want their opinion to affect your life.
But you want to know why? Because it's terrifying. The unknown is terrifying to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they live their lives, is being scared and judging people and situations based on that, again, that fear, which I think is what we need to change when we're talking about how we're having these discussions. We need to get rid of that, change it where it's not so polarized anymore with these conversations that we're having, and not allowing for that to be the narrative anymore, right? I think that's what we need to do. Like, there is the importance of nuance, right? So we need to be presenting issues outside of that political debate framework, which I think is what we're going to be capable of doing when we're talking with these professionals and these real life people, with issues on abortion as a healthcare issue instead of a policy, right? Like we said, we need to talk about it as a healthcare issue, not political, right? I mean, there's time and place, like I said, when you get to the end of the road and you figure everything out with the facts, then you can look at it and present it in a way that you were talking about policy, right? And who has the policy that fits that handles that issue best. Then that's where you can talk about it. But we can't, that's the end of the game, right? That is the last piece of it all. It's not where you start. And that's what I think a lot of the problem is that we start with the politics and then it gets so jumbled up. There's no way
when you start with the politics, you end the conversation the moment it starts.
Right. Exactly.
People have already decided whether they agree with you or disagree.
Yeah. You're literally starting to do that.
So we're going to have the experts talk about the issue, but just the issue, not the policy. Then we'll talk about people affected by the policy. Come on, and just talk about how they are affected by that policy. The third thing I'm going to be doing is, some of you might have seen some of my whiteboard videos. And my goal with those is always, to make it as objective and succinct as possible.
Right.
Like to just, if you have a chance to look at my tariffs whiteboard, that I think that's a good example of it, where I'm just talking about the issue. I'm not taking sides or anything like that. And they're just explainers. And those are good things to, like if you have a soft MAGA in your life and you're trying to broach some of these conversations, these are good things to share with them.
Here's where you start.
They're not explicitly political. They're just, this is what tariffs are. Like a tariff, when who pays a tariff is actually the importer. And when the container comes to the shipping yard, they actually have to pay the U.S. government to release that container from the shipping yard.
Right.
So they literally it is the importer, and then the importer can do three ways to alleviate the cost of that. One is they can ask the exporter, on the other. So if it came from Taiwan, and this company in Taiwan would cut their prices and they would absorb the loss. That never happens.
Not happening.
It happened a little bit with Japan in the auto industry back in the 80s.
Right.
The other thing they can do is they can just eat the cost,
which is
but
they're
you're
not
talking about
going to do.
that's their entire profit. And what's the point of trying to run a business if you can't make money, right?
Right.
So the third choice is they pass it on, and so they'll charge. There's usually like a middleman, and a distributor, and then the distributor marks up the price, and then it goes to Walmart or whatever, and Walmart pays a price.
Yeah.
And so the price keeps going up. So it's not even like a 25% tariff means the price of that thing for you went up 25%. The price for you might go up 40%.
Right.
Because there's all the markups along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That are getting marked up.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So
I think that's a great concept or idea to talk about with people, especially like you said, the soft magas in your life, because it's not about politics. It's just literally, how does it work? It's like that show, like, how is it made? Right. It's like essentially that in this form, in a podcast form, like how does that work? Or in the whiteboards, you're essentially doing the same thing. You're just providing like, here is the plain black and white facts about this. And there is no bias. There is no polarization. There's no politics. It's not bipartisan. It's not partisan at all. It's just, here's the information and here's how it works,
So, and then the final chapter is I just launched my Substack yesterday.
Woo-hoo.
And I think Nahan will also be a contributor.
Yes.
But we don't want to present ourselves as we're the experts on all of this. We are going on a journey, and we are learning things too. Like, I learned things from talking to the OBGYN physician. I learned things by talking to the women that got abortions. Right. And so my Substack is not it's not preaching this is what the truth is. The Substack is, this is what I learned from this journey. And like when I do the whiteboard videos also, I learn a lot through that. And I don't just write those off the cuff. I do a lot of research along the way. So I learn things too. And so I with my Substack, I want to share with you my journey of learning, and then hopefully also present myself as a pattern of somebody who can learn. And then it's not me teaching you, right? It's not, I'm trying to get away from the condescending, I know you don't know, so you need to listen to me. I think that turns off so many MAGAs.
I mean, that's where the Democrats have lost, I think, in this narrative, where we're like talking at people all the time. That's how we have tried to communicate information to the right, is by talking at them, but instead talking with them is the way to go. I think that's how we should do it. And I'm excited about the Substack too. I'm also excited to hear what other people's opinions are on that. I think that setting ourselves up as an example on how to be an active learner and an everyday learner is really important because I think some people are going to struggle to get off of the way that the things have been presented before. And this is a really great opportunity to say, hey, it can happen. Here's what I learned. How about you? What's your perspective on that?
I just want to mention one thing. I was looking through some of the comments. Sorry, I missed this earlier, Jeremy. Hopefully you're still here. But he says tariffs are at their core a tax on the end product. Consumers will always pay the cost. And that is 100% true.
Bingo.
But I think what's getting missed on all of this is that tariffs are a regressive tax. They're essentially a sales tax. And if you make $20,000, you spend 100% of your income. Like if you make $20,000 a year, you spend 100% of your income. Absolutely. Period. Like and if you make $100,000 a year, you probably don't spend 100% of your income. Maybe you spend 80% of your income and you save the rest. Right. And if you make $1 million a year, Maybe you spend 20% of your income. You have a nicer house and everything, but the tariffs, if you spend 100% of your income, then the tariffs are going to take a larger portion of your income.
Right. What you can spend your money on is less. It's just dwindling.
Because if it causes prices to go up 20%, your buying power just reduced 20% by that tariff. Right. And there's domestic prices too, so it's not a direct correlation, but generally domestic products, when you have tariffs, then you can raise your prices on domestic products and still be cheaper than the foreign product. So that still causes inflation, right? Yeah. And it's hidden inflation. It's not a tax, or it's a hidden tax, because you're paying it. You're actually paying a tax on the tax.
Yeah, it's not on the receipt. It doesn't say tariff tax. It's on the price of the cost of the good. It's increasing.
But even if there's a sale, I didn't just realize this. If there's a sales tax on it, then you're actually paying extra sales tax on the extra price. So you're getting a double tax. So it's doubly regressive.
Right.
Versus if you're wealthy, and they are trying to accompany this with cuts in Social Security payment, cuts in Medicare, cuts in corporate income tax, and cuts in income tax for the wealthy.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're trying to, they're so much against wealth transfer, but they're trying to transfer wealth from the poor to the wealthy.
Right.
Like this is
empty.
This is one of those things where I wish the media would actually talk about it. Like, not talk about what is the game. I don't know how they got so broken, but that's one of the things that tariffs are a regressive tax. And they're trying to go from a progressive tax. They're using a regressive tax to cut to cut taxes to offset the cost of progressive taxes. So the people who can afford it more pay less, and the people who can afford less pay more.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even think about the idea of you're actually paying not just for the additional costs of the good because of the tariff. But the sales tax, you're literally paying so much more for a product because of a tariff. Like that cost increases everything else. And it takes away your buying power, which is nobody wants that. Like your everyday American doesn't want that, but your everyday American also a lot of them don't understand how this works. They don't even understand how taxes work. Right. So I think it would be great if we have somebody on the show to explain that, because I'm sure I could learn a lot from somebody that could explain those things, because I think it's not a conversation that we have. It's not something that you get taught of in high school. Barely they teach you how to, balance a checkbook, and that's unfortunate. That's a whole different conversation about, where the education in the United States is failing Americans. But like, if we can offer an alternative to, especially adults that, they're not, most of them aren't in school anymore, but I'll offer an alternative to having the ability to learn something that is affecting their everyday lives, then we should be doing that.
And so like Wireless Mike says, a lot of them just don't care. Apathy is a problem in America. And I think apathy is a symptom, not the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy is a result of fatigue.
Right.
Like people are tired. Like, I mean, just think about how tired you are sometimes. Like at the end of the week, you're just so fornicating tired. Like, you especially if you I don't even have kids, but it's like you've got to deal with work, you've got to deal with traffic, you've got to deal with kids, you've got to deal with assholes. Like it's just, you're just tired, and you come home and you just want to turn your brain off.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not apathy, that's exhaustion. And what is going on is Republicans are actually amplifying that situation.
They're literally feeding us,
making it harder for you to by taking away vacation time, by taking away unions, by taking away
Overtime.
overtime now. They're talking about taking away overtime, but you won't have to pay taxes on that overtime pay you're not getting.
Right. So, exactly. No, but I mean, that is it. This is what the Republicans love to do. It is their tactic. It is a feature, not a bug. They are intent on keeping the layman down so that they can't be, actively listening to a podcast. They're always, focused on other things that are like literally a part of their livelihood, like keeping their job, paying for issues with their car, but they don't have the money. So they have to work overtime. So they don't get to spend time with their family. And, their intent on doing that is to ensure that they stay in power and that people aren't paying enough attention to what they're actually doing in the policies that they're implementing, because they don't have time for that. They don't have time for that because they can't.
If you can make them angry about the school is going to, do a trans surgery on your daughter, and she's going to come back your son, then it's with the craziness. And then there's the immigrants. It's all the immigrants' fault. If it weren't for the immigrants, then you could have a nice, robust strawberry picking job that
yeah.
And
no,
then,
it's every accusation is a deflection away from them. Like the boogeyman isn't the trans people or the immigrants or people of color. It's them. They are the bad guys. But the way that they take your attention away from that is take an issue that they have created and place blame on somebody else that they don't like. And that keeps us infighting all the time and not able to stay focused on who's actually really creating the problems. And I hope that we're able to, with all the episodes we want to do, with the whiteboard explainers, with the Substack, and hopefully with the engagement that we're going to get from all of that, I hope that is going to alleviate some of that, that blame game, and for people to be able to recognize like that is just that's not factual. That's not the truth,
So, looking through some of the comments, I want to make sure I get to, if not all, there's been a lot of comments. Thank you guys for being so engaged. It makes it easier when you guys are engaged. So Wireless Mike says, because it's not the only cause for apathy, so sociopathy and narcissism are rampant, and reality TV has made that popular. I think that does kind of dovetail a little bit. With a lot of it. And here's my view on reality TV. It before reality TV, you had like, the Jerry Springer show and stuff. And then that just, to me, that evolved into reality TV.
Yeah,
the whole motive of it is the same. If you can watch assholes on TV, you can feel better about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that guy's a dick. I'm not a dick because I'm not like that. And so it's not reality, and it's the whole goal of it is just to, like, I'm a better person, or I identify with the good guy on that reality TV show, therefore I'm a good person.
Right. Well, Wireless Mike, I'm pretty sure our president checks off all three of those boxes: a sociopath, a narcissist, and a reality TV show star. So
that's a very, very valid point.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Anyway.
I'm wondering when we're going to get our own, like, the White House, like, reality show. Like, I feel like he's such a grifter that's just bound to happen. Something's going to happen.
He's going to he's going to fire Vance, and he's going to do an apprentice version where the winner gets to be the next vice president.
Right, exactly. Well, he's going to fire Vance. That is before Vance, enacts the 25th Amendment. We'll see which happens first. Can he fire his vice presidency? I don't know that. Can he do that?
I don't know if you can.
He can, because he was elected by the people, and not appointed by him. So I don't think that. I don't know.
But Trump.
He can do whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants.
He can just ask SEAL Team 6 to take out Vance if he wants. Jeremy says, and the bread and butter states of the Republican Party will produce graduates less prepared to exist in the world due to declining education standards, creating a new low-income workforce. Absolutely. And this is like what I have noticed is and like, just, this is my personal opinion. I really wish that propositional logic was a required course in high school.
Right.
So, like, I don't know if have you ever had a propositional logic class?
I don't believe so.
It's really, what they do is it takes an argument and it breaks it down into a mathematical formula.
Mm-hmm.
And then you solve the mathematical formula to see or not if it's valid. If you can't solve the problem, then it's an invalid argument and there's a fallacy involved. Like, it's actually, it takes the logic out of the subject.
Right. It really makes it
the logic, and just, is this a logical argument or not?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really fascinating thing. I took it when I was in college in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And this was right when Rush Limbaugh was getting popular.
Oh, goodness.
And so we were given an assignment to take our, like, a favorite politician or, political person of some sort,
Mm-hmm.
and go home and take one of their arguments and then either prove it or disprove it. About 30% of the class stopped listening to Rush Limbaugh the next day.
Wow.
Like, like a bunch of them were like all Rush Limbaugh listeners, and then they listened to it, and then they objectively separated his logic out from the emotion of what he was saying and realized this man is so full of shit that he cannot possibly fit any more shit inside of him. That's why it keeps coming out of his mouth. Yet somehow he's never runs out of shit to say.
Yeah.
So
ever flows.
Anyway, I hear he's still dry, still sober.
Rush Limbaugh, isn't he dead?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
It's hard to get opioids in hell, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's the opposite of his hell would be force feeding them. So
anyway, I wish that was a high school requirement. To me, it was one of the most important classes I've ever taken. It's just like, we need to learn how to think. And the uneducated, like, I'm not saying this as a derogatory thing,
mm-hmm.
but the uneducated are actually uneducated. And
right.
a big part of education is learning how to learn, learning how to think. Like, you go to college and you learn how to learn. It's not just what you learn. Like, whether you're learning history or science or math or whatever, there's like this process of learning how to learn. And
right.
if you've never been to college, you've never learned that aspect of something. So it's easier for you to just get spoon-fed nonsense and not recognize that's nonsense.
Right. And also, not everybody goes to college. That's the thing. It doesn't always happen. So in fact, something like that could be taught on a level where most people do go to high school and complete high school. I mean, it would be tremendously valuable to, just changing the narrative on how people think,
Jeremy's right. Public high schools struggle to even staff much of the necessary courses that prepare students for not just.
We have teachers on the show. Oh,
I'm sure getting rid of the Department of Education will really help.
Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be so great. Who is it that Trump picked to head the Department of Education? I'm trying to remember her name. She's from the WWE.
McMahon's
Linda
wife.
McMahon.
Yeah.
Great lady. She's going to do such great work at the Department of Education. Literally lied on her resume. She doesn't have a certificate or a degree in education at all. She has no experience, but that's for another episode, I think.
Right.
But still,
she does fill the most necessary requirement for a Trump cabinet pick, though, in that she has a history of sex abuse.
Yeah, sex abuse. Her and her husband both are getting. There was a case that was brought back in October, I believe, for child exploitation for the what they call them, the ring boys or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, again, the perfect candidate for a position in Trump's cabinet.
Like,
I think that if
he just wanted to
reasonable,
prove he's not sexist.
right,
He is just as willing to give a female rapist a cabinet position as a male rapist.
right, yeah, they're the same in his mind. They're the same thing because he's not looking at gender at that point. He's looking at, are they rapist or not? Can I relate to them?
Like, this is a person I don't have to worry about the fact that I'm a racist is going to come back to haunt me.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's our long-winded way of delivering our 4-part plan here is, to have the experts to really crystallize the issue free of policy.
Yes.
Then having people that are affected by that issue come on and take away the fear and present themselves as real people rather than the caricatures that the right has drawn. And then third, to have the whiteboard video that is a nice way to share the issue, again, free of policy or bias, in a way where it's just instructive. And then fourth, our own journal, I guess you could say, in the Substack of what we learned and what we realized going through this process. So, and I think, with those 4 things together, you have like the 4 legs of a table where you have something nice and firm that you can rest things on. And I don't know if it will work. I don't know how much this is going to change or how much things are going to take off. I don't know if I'm ever going to rival Joe Rogan. I somehow am not optimistic I'm going to reach Joe Rogan levels of.
Yeah, we can all gain.
But who knows,
Yeah, don't sell us short yet.
But what I do think is that we need to try.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this last night. There's no way, and if you read my first Substack, I mentioned that the issue is billionaires have bought the legacy media, and billionaires have now bought the social media.
Yes.
And we need to find ways, and by social media, I mean like Facebook and Twitter are owned by billionaires, and they control how much information we get, and Elon actively kind of amped up Republican voices and turned down Democrat voices during, the lead up to this election. And it's a big reason why there's now this, people are like, oh, everybody's fleeing to blue sky. No, I'm not fleeing to blue sky. I am advancing to blue sky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is
not, I am not hiding from the intellectual superior arguments of the right that I'm a libtard pedo, like that is not what I'm not fleeing from that. I am trying to have a place where I can have an actual conversation above the din of trolls and bots and assholes. And, like we cannot have a conversation if people are yelling nonsense and all of that kind of stuff.
That whiteboard you did on that was awesome. You did a whiteboard about being on Twitter, the bot, and the president is claiming that there's an alien and all this.
Yes, exactly.
Mayors. I was sitting there like I was like, I cannot hear what he's saying. And I'm like, that was just like exactly what was happening on Twitter. If you think that there was any real honest conversations for over 50% of the time you were spending on Twitter, then you're lying to yourself. Okay. There wasn't, it was all manufactured, what was available to you, what was presented to you. Hell, I didn't follow Elon, and he was the first 5 posts on my Twitter feed every time I open the app. We have to be honest with ourselves that no, we're not fleeing from that. But like, if you're in a physical bad situation and you're, having a conversation with somebody and it turns sour, should you do? You should probably walk away and go talk to somebody else, right? There's a time where it's like, this is not appropriate anymore. It's not conducive to what my goals are. So I'm going to go and do something else. And that is, I think, what has been beautiful about being able to come over to Blue Sky is that I'm actually having genuine conversations with people.
Exactly. Here. Yes.
There is
I have had more real conversations on Blue Sky in 3 weeks than I had in the last 4 years on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredible how what I've been over here on Blue Sky. I think I made an account months ago, but I didn't use it. Been over here, I would say 2-3 weeks now, and I probably have had more conversations than the entire last year I had on Twitter in just 3 weeks. It's insane. It's insane, and it's a beautiful thing. So it's not just us. There's other people coming and having great discussions, and I want to see that continue. And I think that we all should be looking at different ways to have these conversations, like get off Twitter, go on Blue Sky, listen to independent podcasts. Hey, here you are. Thanks for listening. Community supported journalism. There's a great list of people. I'm sure there's plenty of starter packs on Blue Sky that have lists of people that are independent journalists, right?
That's actually I'm going to put together one of those.
Oh, Anna Bowers, she's amazing. Anybody from Lawfare, they're great. If you're into that stuff, follow them. They're an awesome group. I'm going to make a starter pack on Blue Sky with some of the independent journalists that I follow. So be on the lookout for that. So I can share it with everybody, and you can get, I haven't turned on mainstream media since the election, and I feel so much more at ease.
So here's, like people are saying, like there's this rumor. So MSNBC is Comcast putting MSNBC up to sell. And so then some people are like Elon Musk is inquiring about it.
Wants Elon to buy it.
Yeah. So but then some people are saying, no, maybe have Mark Cuban buy it.
Yeah.
And I don't want billionaire-owned media, whether it's billionaire I agree with or a billionaire I disagree with.
That's just the left doing exactly what the right is doing. I don't want that either.
What I want is an independent media.
Yes.
And and I was thinking about this. I mentioned this last night when I was on Lib Polls. Anyway, I was on a podcast last night. Probably Lib. Pro Lib, that's it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, we cannot combat billions of dollars, but we can combat we can't combat billions of dollars with billions of dollars. Like, if a million of us were able to give $1,000 a piece, that would be $1 billion. We're not most of us do not have $1,000 to give, right? So what we can do is 1 million voices.
Yes.
Can beat the crap out of $1 billion.
Yeah. Have you seen the picture of like a shark and the fish are swimming away, but then the fish create a bigger fish that's going to eat the shark? It's kind of that premise as well, right? Yeah. Like when we are collectively doing something together like that, we're able to accomplish big things that we couldn't if we were doing it alone.
So but we're like piranhas instead of sharks.
Right.
It's the million little fish chomping up with their little sharp teeth.
That's right. Ready to eat some flesh.
It's just there's power in numbers, as they say. Yeah. And the more voices that are out there, the better. And somebody see in there. Wireless Mike says I was one of the first people he found and followed on Blue Sky. Woo-woo. Just a humble brag without the humble. I was one of the first 100 people that Mark Hamill followed on Blue Sky.
That is just.
I'm basically a celebrity.
Yeah.
It's he followed me on Twitter too, so I got and when he followed me on Twitter, I'm like, he followed me on Twitter, but it was like,
maybe it was just I
had announced my dog had cancer, and so it was like a sympathy follow. But this, this was a little different. So anyway,
Kelly, he came to find you.
He was like, that guy was a good follow. So if you're listening, if you're not doing anything tomorrow for Thanksgiving, feel free to come over. We need to man together. And also, I would just say, even if you don't have money, somebody had mentioned, I can't find the comment, something about clickbait or whatever. Here's what I would encourage you to do. If you have $8 a month, there you go.
Yeah.
While we don't want to be motivated by clicks and advertising dollars, if you find independent media, and like, you can do one of two things: support their Substack with money, not just with a free subscription. And you can if you do 2 or 3, that's like $20 a month. If you have the money, you have the money. If you don't, you don't. The other thing you can do is, like, on YouTube channels, don't skip past the video. Watch the actual video. If it's a monetized account, it makes a difference in how much money that person gets for that. If you go to their web pages, don't have a pop-up blocker on.
Right.
Content creators need to get paid. And so if you want content creators to create content free of the influence of billionaires, then you have to do what you can to get them paid. Heck, even click on, if there's something you're interested in, click on it. Like an advertisement. If you like, if an ad renders on a web page, having been like, when I was an NBA writer, I was kind of like aware of the business end.
Right.
If an ad renders where just it displays, you get paid like 1/10 of a cent.
Right.
For the ad being there, right?
Being there and loading on the screen.
The longer the page is open, like if it's open for like 3 minutes, then they get paid like a whole cent.
Right.
It's more likely they saw it. They didn't just click through there. But if you click on the ad, you get paid like $1.
Right.
Right. So you can't, and then if you buy something, then I think it goes up even more. So you can't
lose there.
You don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
But you have a mouse.
Yeah, you're not even spending money supporting. You're just doing it with what you're already doing, scrolling.
Just click on an ad, watch an ad, so that the people that are creating content that you agree with,
right, and not fundamental billionaires.
And it's a little thing, and it really costs you nothing more than a couple of seconds of time. So I just maybe you're not aware of that. Like, it's small, but it's a little bit, and all those little bits add up. So just kind of a pitch for, not just for me, but for all the content creators that are trying to make a living, so that we can do the right thing and get the media, get something out, get another voice out. But that's really where the billions comes in. Elon Musk, you think about it. Elon Musk, he bought Twitter for $44 billion.
Yeah.
It's supposedly like worth $4 billion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, what, 80% less worth than it was
when he lost $40 billion. $40 billion. You know what he could afford to buy then that he can't afford to buy now? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
It made zero influence in his life.
Yeah.
So, you can't expect people that have bills to pay and have a budget and have a nut, and they're struggling to reach their nut. They can't compete with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
If they don't have money to buy their kids medicine or to, So anyway, just think about it. Like, just support them, support Substacks. And I don't just mean mine. And even if you don't support mine, support somebody else's.
There's a bunch of great ones out there too. I mean, ours is great, and it's going to be amazing. And there's, like I said, there's that list of independent journalists. I think almost all of them have a Substack, and I follow a lot of them. So yeah, support in any way that you can.
Even if you just subscribe, because I think some of them there's ways that people can monetize just an email.
I think it's like your subscriber numbers can help you monetize depending on the height of the amount that it is too. So yeah, lots of different ways to support.
Just even if you have money, then I encourage you, instead of donating it to a campaign.
The Harris Fund is looking for money for recounting the votes right now. Do you get those emails?
Oh, I didn't even know that she was actually. I was thinking she wasn't going to do. Anyway, I never click on those emails.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Send it to somebody else. Send it to the news people, the independent journalists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give them a way to support themselves so that they can have the time and the energy to create the content that can compete with the mass media.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are those real? Or what real?
I'm not sure.
Mike? When you say, are those real? Oh, are they really doing?
Oh, I don't know. It's from the Harris campaign. After the election, I'm getting emails. The Fight Fund is what they're calling it. They want funding to continue to fight to make sure all the ballots are counted.
So it's making sure all the ballots are counted, not recounted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've got other ways that I'd like to spend my money. Not that I don't think that that's important, but there's a better way to budget at this point.
All right. So anyway, thanks for I appreciate the participation today. Absolutely. It's always so nice when we have feedback.
Yeah.
And this is the first solo show with just myself and my new co-host Nahan, and I think we're starting to connect here.
I'm loving this. I'm excited to see, like I said, what we're doing with the rest of the new episodes with the experts, the real people, pairing that with the whiteboards and the Substack, and I'm excited to write some articles for that as well. It's gonna be great. It's going to be great. I think we're going to be able to change some minds and reach some people that we typically couldn't in other forms and fashions that we've been trying to before. So really pumped about it.
So, all right. Now, and this will be on our podcast probably in half an hour. So if you're not already subscribed, first of all, if you're not subscribed to my channel on YouTube, do go ahead and take care of that. And then, if you're not subscribed to my podcast, I'll have the link below. That's if you want a downloadable audio version. And then if you're not following me on Blue Sky, follow me on Blue Sky. I'm on Twitter barely, but most of my engagement now is on Blue Sky. And then I'll also post a link to my Substack on this video. But and then we'll also give you Nahan's Blue Sky.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on there if you're not already. All the links that Kelly just put out, I'll have them in a post that I'll share later. If you want just a quick one-stop shop to access any of that, just check it out on my Blue Sky post here shortly.
All right.
Awesome. And this is also our last podcast for the week because of the holiday. I wanted to ask you before we sign off here, though, what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish? What is it? I got to know.
Okay. There is only one answer to this question. We did not script this. I have a very strong opinion on this. The most important Thanksgiving dish is gravy.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Gravy is the great unifier of the plate.
It can go on all the things.
You put it on your mashed potatoes, you put it on your gravy, you put it on your turkey, you sop it up with your dinner rolls. Gravy is the most essential.
It is the unifier.
And people will say that's not a dish. Yeah, I am sorry. Turkey gravy, give me a spoon. I will eat a bowl of it.
Yes.
It is the gravy. I mean, if I loved gravy anymore, I would be a MAGA.
No. No, listen, my grandmother sang a song for me when I was a kid about mashed potatoes and gravy because I love it so much. So I'm going to pair your gravy with those mashed potatoes. I put rutabaga and a sweet potato in mine, and it's very fine dining, fancy stuff. So put the gravy on everything. I love it.
I watched a video on YouTube today. I'm going to try this. And instead of boiling your potatoes, he cuts them, cuts a slit, and then he roasts them for 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
He turns them over and he mashes them, and then he pulls off the peel.
The skin, yeah.
Huh. And then because they're not boiled, there's more potato flavor. You don't boil out all that potato flavor. You're not as watery. So when you add in the dairy stuff, They're
Yeah.
like they're thicker.
I
So
think
I'm gonna
that's
try that. That sounds like a really good idea.
that.
And here's another idea is this is something I do is I like put half an onion. I
Mhm.
roast half an onion
Potatoes.
and then I include that.
Oh, okay. Listen, I'm gonna try both of those things actually. So I'm still gonna do my rutabaga and my sweet potato, but I'm gonna do some onion and I'm gonna bake them and I'm gonna report back and let you know how it went.
Okay. That sounds good.
Awesome. Oh, and last thing too, our next episode on Monday. Who do we have on Monday?
I believe I can't I need to sort this out. I believe the plan is there is a so next week we have a climate scientist coming on Monday, and then I think we have on Wednesday an asylum lawyer.
Okay, cool.
And I've got to figure out the rest of it. We'll work. I need to work out the schedule more as this plan. I've had these shows in mind before the whole framework came in mind.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll get to the point where, we'll have asylum week and DACA week and transgender week, and kind of have everything. But right now things are going to be kind of jumbled together a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So when we get that all settled, I'm sure we'll be posting that on Blue Sky. So again, make sure you're following both of us so you can get any of the information as soon as we put it out there on the platform.
Not the same without the dairy. Yeah, I put in the dairy after I put in the potatoes, the mashed potatoes with the dairy, stir it up, and so what are everybody's thoughts on whipped versus mashed?
Oh, it really depends though. So sometimes I'll make the potatoes with the skin on it, and I will definitely just mash those, right? I'm not going to whip them. But if I do what I typically do, which is make them with the sweet potatoes and the rutabaga, I still will mash them because I like the pieces of the rutabaga in it because you can't really whip rutabaga. It's a root vegetable, right? You can't whip it. But if it's just straight up mashed potatoes, I'm definitely whipping those babies. They're getting whipped. They're getting whipped real good.
Whip it good. Whip it real good.
Any potatoes are good, all good.
As long as there's gravy, as long as
there's gravy. Look, there's not going to be a Thanksgiving without gravy. We can all agree to that. I think that's a common, place where we can find middle ground.
I once went to somebody's house for dinner, and it wasn't Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
And they served mashed potatoes, and there was no gravy.
No gravy. What?
I was like, "Where's their gravy?" And she's like, "Oh, I didn't make any gravy." I was like, I got up from the table, I went and I made gravy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some dishes where you're like, what, let's say you make a ham. I'm not going to make a ham gravy.
Oh, you should try ham gravy.
Yeah? Well, you mean white?
Ham gravy is amazing.
Gravy, like red eye gravy?
No, I'm talking just like you would turkey gravy from the ham drippings.
Yeah.
Just make gravy, but use the ham drippings to make the gravy. It's amazing.
Even like a brown sugar or honey glazed ham?
Yeah.
Like sweet. It would be a little sweet. Oh.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
Because mostly what you're getting is the ham juice.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna have to try that too. I'm a gravy lover. Through and through. Ham gravy.
Kelly, if it were up to me, gravy would be a food group.
Yeah. See, I'm a soup lover. Soup till the day I die. I love soup. And so gravy, I feel like it's not soup, but it's like its close cousin. And that's why I think I love it so much, because I love soup so much. So
I love soup too. And soup is you don't need to know how to cook to make a good soup.
No, just throw it in the pot.
You just throw crap and water in a pot and it comes out good.
Any idiot can make soup. Swear to God. You don't think you can cook? Make a soup.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
It's so easy.
There's no technique to that.
All you need to know to make a good soup is like the there's a word for it. I can't think of it. But the diced onions, celery, and carrots.
Pear paw.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brown that. Throw in a meat.
Yeah.
And then throw in the water.
Yeah.
Just
Make it
let it
cream
simmer
based or
for a while.
not, either broth based, cream based, and then add whatever you can add whatever vegetables you want.
Eventually, you can throw in whatever starch you want, whether
Yeah,
but
literally.
let it cook for a while because the starch will overcook. So,
Yeah,
like,
right.
if you're
That
gonna
goes
throw in
last.
some rice with about 20 minutes to go,
Yeah.
throw in some potatoes, throw in some pasta, whatever, about 10 or 20 minutes left, and then you'll get a nice soup. It doesn't matter, just whatever vegetables you like.
Yeah, I've literally cleaned out my fridge and made soup from that. Like, all right, well, I have this, whatever. They're not going to go together in any other way than just making a soup out of it. It's genius. It's not stupid. It's soup.
So, and here's something else. This is something I have recently discovered. Since you're a soup lover, you might like this.
Yes.
What else you can do is, like, you always want to throw, like, I heard a cook one time, a chef say, never throw in just water.
Right.
So, like chicken stock and stuff like that, it's like all of that works. But sometimes you want something a little more flavor neutral, or you want something that's, like maybe if you're cooking for a vegan or something, you can make, like there's vegetable broth, which is really good. Orange or onion broth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just make onion broth. What I do is I just take like 5 or 6 onions, throw them in whole.
Yeah, no skin, you don't skin them, do you?
Peels on and everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And then just boil, like you can either simmer them for a few hours, or I just throw them in the pressure cooker for like 30 minutes. And like onion broth has a really nice flavor to it. You can throw in some salt, and like you can actually just drink onion broth as a if you have a cold or something, and it tastes good.
Yeah, so there's a local Japanese place here where I live that serves that. Like that is, they bring it to the table to like it's just onion broth, and it's amazing. Like I go buy it by like the 32-ounce cup sizes all the time. I love it.
But it's like cheaper to just make it on your own.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's me being lazy. If I pass the place, I'll go.
Like, I mean, all you have to do is throw onions in water. Like, how hard is that? You don't even have to cut the onions.
You don't need, I mean, literally anybody can do that. Anybody. And it's delicious. It's delicious.
So, okay, we have thoroughly digressed. We've actually, our audience has grown. Maybe we should just give up this whole idea and become a food channel.
There you go. Hey, I mean, I got the background. We could do it. We will have a food episode, though. We should really talk about food production, farming, how that's going to be affected with different changes in immigration. Definitely should talk about that. So we'll talk more food, I'm sure.
All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate, and happy Indigenous Day to those who don't. So I kind of half celebrate it. I like half of the principle of it. I don't like the murdering the Indians part, but I do like the, just being thankful for things part. So that's all I like the turkey. And you know what my favorite part of Thanksgiving is, Nahan?
Gravy.
That's it. Okay.
Well, I hope you get all the gravy that your heart desires over the holiday. And I look forward to being back in everybody's ear holes on Monday, and hope everybody enjoy their holiday weekend.
Okay. See you on Monday.
See you guys.